It is IB Countdown to Kickoff with Vince D'Addario and Jesse Stiers. I'm Sean Stiers as we roll into Central Michigan weekend after last week's win over North Carolina State. One little reminder up front, make sure everybody remembers, this is a Peacock game this weekend. Home Notre Dame game, but it's on Peacock only. I know everyone's very excited about that.
You going to be able to watch, Jesse?
I have Peacock, and don't be coming asking for my. Well, you're at the game. Never mind. You can't reach my password.
I'm good. No mooching here.
You'll have to watch yourself if you're on Twitter because that streaming delay.
Oh yeah,
Peacock's bad.
Yep. There's quite a lag there. So
I think you've gotten the gist of. Let me text you first.
It's hard when we're at the game.
And that's by the time you text me when we're sitting at the game.
The next play is over.
At least. Yeah.
At least the next play will be.
And it's even when it's like network TV, it's still pretty greatly delayed with real life. And when it's streaming, it's even worse. Like it's
Exactly. So you got that to deal with. They are offering a student discount. You can get it for $1.99 as opposed to $5.99 if you got a verified student email address.
It's funny. I have a buddy, and I hope this doesn't get me in trouble at all, but he's about 1 year younger than me. He's been graduated for 3 or 4 years. He will make a fake. He'll enroll into a community college, get a school email.
What?
Get the NFL Sunday pass for like $100 and then just cancel out his community college.
Like he registers as a student.
Yeah.
Just so that he can get the Sunday ticket
just
for
so
a
he
discount.
The student price on the Sunday ticket, and it works every year.
Wow. Does he go to the same place or does he like bounce around to different community colleges?
I'm not too in touch on the strategy. I just know the overall plan.
I mean, it's a community college, so you could really do that for a long time. Because you got a lot of non-traditional. Yeah. Hats off.
I just helped the people out. I didn't say, what to do, but I gave an example of how it's been done before.
I'm actually curious if my email with the school corporation would count.
It's got a .edu on it.
It does.
I mean,
you've got a school email address.
It's the kids' emails are the same as the teacher emails. First initial, last name, that kind of thing.
I did invent some ideas.
Just saying. The problem is I don't care about the Sunday ticket. So
that's true.
I will not be spending that kind of do-re-mi. And even $1.99 is a little steep for Peacock. So
oh boy.
All right, let's get to business. Notre Dame beat North Carolina State 45-24, 29 consecutive regular season ACC wins. Now, how significant is that, do you guys think?
Take us off, Vince.
I mean, it's significant because it's a Power 5 conference and all of that, and it's interesting because I've definitely seen pundits out there brushing that off, right? Brushing it aside because, they've lost to Clemson twice in the postseason. And so what does 29 straight regular season games really mean and all of this? Look, that's still one heck of a streak. And
let's not forget, they beat Clemson when they were number one in that streak.
And last time I checked, no other team in the ACC has that kind of a record.
Correct.
So if none of them can have it, then why is it not impressive that Notre Dame does?
Right.
Just Notre Dame haters out there, and I realize I have a reputation for hating and all those things, but that's what it is. I mean, I think it's impressive. I think the longer it runs, the more ACC hate there's going to be directed towards Notre Dame as well, as if there's already not enough. You know what kills me about all this, ACC and Notre Dame, why don't you just join the conference? You want your cake and eat it too, and all this kind of stuff. We've said this before. Without Notre Dame, the ACC would be even in worse shape now than they are already in. Like with the TV contract and with
with ACC Network. There would be no ACC Network if it weren't for Notre Dame. And the TV contract would be worth less than it is right now because Notre Dame is attached to that TV contract, which makes it more desirable for ESPN.
So I have two arguments in this case. One,
okay.
It is.
Are you going to argue with yourself? Or are you going to argue like both sides? Or?
No. Well, one argument for why it's impressive and a second argument for why it's impressive. The first argument is it's just hard to win 29 straight games against, Power 5 teams in general. And I was trying to find conference streaks, right? There's not a lot of information out there, but I feel like that would stack up very well, in terms of maybe some of the other large streaks that are out there, right? And so no matter if it's ACC or not, Power 5 wins like that, 29 straight, that's very impressive. And just attaching the ACC to it is really the only difference. And then I guess my second argument would be, everyone that still wants to talk about why Notre Dame needs to be in a conference, or Notre Dame, needs to be in a conference for this or that. And I think that's another, the 29 straight is okay, but really though, because it's like playing a conference without having to play in a conference. So I think it shows, the conference strength and a strong rebuttal for why they don't need to be in a conference.
Yeah, I agree. 29 straight. It's an impressive streak, and it'll be put to the test, I think. Next ACC team they play in a couple of weeks against Duke. It's a road game. I think this year maybe puts that streak to the test as much as any year in the last couple of years. So,
well, you got obviously two big road games, right? Duke and Clemson.
Yeah,
those are the big ones. The other ones,
exactly.
The other ones I'm not so worried about, and I guess I'm a little more worried about Duke than I was a few weeks ago. I will say that, but I'm still not. I still think Notre Dame is the better team and will win that game.
Me too.
But the one on the road at Clemson is going to be tough.
Time.
Thanks, Marcus. I'm aware.
Coach has got us on track here.
Yeah.
All right. Seriously. Best thing you guys saw last week was what?
You know what? I'm going to keep this one short and simple. I thought when the game went into weather delay, they were horrible at running the ball. They kept trying to run the ball inside. There wasn't a lot of success. They were getting, behind the chains. They had 2 3 and outs to start the game. I simply think the best thing I saw was the adjustments coming out of the weather delay. I think that's something we haven't seen in the past offensively. And they were quick to make a change. And yeah, it's the best thing I saw. They opened up their run game, which then, in fold opened up their passing game. And the rest was history from there.
For me, it was more just the overall attitude of the team, right? No one ever panicked. No one ever started to press. Like, even with the weather, I agree. The weather delay was a turning point. There's no doubt about it. But, led by Sam Hartman, they followed his lead. Like, he never panicked. He never pressed. He never did anything of that sort. And the team followed his lead. And so that was the best thing that I saw, because we've seen too many times in the past where things aren't going well to start off. And then you start, forcing throws, or you start trying to do somebody else's job defensively, and then you lose track of somebody else. Somebody gets wide open, those kinds of things. That never happened. That never occurred in this game, even though they had a rocky start, at least offensively. And so I was very impressed by that. That's leadership from the top down. And obviously that starts with Marcus Freeman, and I think the message that he's been sending, but it's being received this year as opposed to this time last year. I don't think it was fully received by the entire team. I think it's being fully received this year, and it shows on the field.
Yeah.
So they weathered the storm is what you're saying.
Wow. Cliche, man.
They rode the storm out.
Yes.
I had to sneak that in.
Yeah. No panic was a thing for me. Like, even after the Sam Hartman fumble, the defense kept rising to the occasion. I think most of what we've talked about so far because of Sam Hartman has been the offense. And I'm not just talking about so far specific to this game, but for the season. We've talked mostly about the offense, it seems like, because of Sam Hartman. But let's not forget, again, like, the defense was put into a couple of bad situations and was able to work its way out of it. And then they set the offense up for some really good situations once again, and the offense was able to capitalize. And I think that is, and Marcus Freeman talked about this earlier this week, the complementary football. We're seeing complementary football on both sides of the ball. And I think that that's the biggest thing, get like factoring in the delay and all the other stuff that you guys talked about as well. I think that was really big though last week. How about Sam Hartman though, with the touchdown drives at the end of the first half, the 2-minute drills that are all less than 2 minutes. He's led one at the end of each half so far. 80 yards in 9 plays, 1 minute 42 seconds against Navy. 80 yards in 6 plays, 38 seconds against Tennessee State. 78 yards in 3 plays. It's like he's upping the ante on himself. 30 seconds against North Carolina State. Big picture, what do you think that means? The fact that Sam Hartman and company have been able to do that in all 3 weeks so far.
It tells me that, number one, Marcus Freeman has immense trust in his offense. I mean, out there calling timeouts, making sure that there's enough time on the clock for the offense to do their thing at the end of the half. That's a massive weapon. Just ask the Patriots, right? They were the kings of going down and scoring at the end of the half, then receiving the kickoff, and then going down and scoring again, like the twofer, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's going to happen for Notre Dame in one of these big games. I'm telling you, that is going to happen at one of these points, and it's going to put the game away. Like, that'll be the nail in the coffin, like game over. Notre Dame just scored twice, and the other team didn't even have the football. I don't know when that's going to happen, but it's going to happen. And so he's got a lot of trust in the offense. He's got a lot of trust in Jared Parker, and he obviously has a lot of trust in Sam Hartman and what he can do with this offense. It's a weapon Notre Dame hasn't had in a really, really, really long time, it feels like.
To me, what this means is that they have more versatility on the offense. It's just another way that they can score, right? Like they can ground and pound you. They can slowly, churn through some first downs, go down the field, chew up clock. And then at times too, they can speed it up when they need to. So to me, that shows a lot of versatility and the ability to have kind of more than one trick in your bag. And Vince touched on it a little bit too. It's the ability to steal points and momentum right before the half. It really can put a dagger into a team. And so I think those are the two big things for me: versatility and the ability to really change momentum in the game and steal points right before the half.
And you practice that, and they do practice that during the week, and putting them into different situations. And I don't know, like, how much you guys, when you were in school, like playing different sports and stuff like that, you guys actually, Vince has obviously coached, but you put your players and you put your teams into specific situations and see how they respond in practice. And then obviously you hope that translates into games. And obviously it has translated into games. And so I think when you look big picture as well, against Ohio State and USC and Clemson and Duke and whoever, there's probably a pretty good chance you're going to need a 2-minute drill. And what if it happens at the end of the game? Well, you've already been in those situations, not just in practice, but in a real game as well. And you've succeeded all 3 times in resounding fashion. So I think, that muscle memory and that confidence that it gives them, I think that's going to be huge potentially. You don't know when it's really going to be needed, sure, but it's going to be needed in some crucial point, probably in one of those games. And they have that confidence that they can do it because they've already done it 3 times.
Good point.
So it's interesting because this, I guess everything becomes a thing at some point between social media and, message boards. And I'm not saying that that's a bad thing, because like one of the things about, like we've got good boards. Brian does a good job of policing the board so it doesn't get too crazy. There was, like one thread, I think earlier this week that kind of had to be, sort of addressed or whatever. And that happens from time to time because people go off the deep end. But what I like about it is you see kind of an exchange of ideas, what people are thinking about things, obviously. One of the things that I thought was odd, Notre Dame had all these explosive offensive plays last week. You had the 80-yard run by Audric Estime. You had a 45-yard catch and run by Tobias Merriweather. You had a couple of long catches by Holden Stace. So you've got these explosive plays. They did the bulk of their damage as the result of these explosive plays. And you have a majority of plays with minimal yards gained. Do you guys buy or sell that as a bad thing, that they're making their hay with explosive plays the way they did last week?
I don't think it's a bad thing. I would like to see less of, the 0 and 1 yard plays, 2 yard plays. Sure. Like everyone wants that. And you want to stay ahead of the chain. And I think, predominantly look at 3 to 4 yards every down. But I think the reason why it's not an issue to me is because the multitude and different ways that the big plays happen. You have, one of them being just a really good scheme, and Audric Estime just taking off in the open field, right? Another one, you had poor tackling by North Carolina State, and Holden State's the ability to be, strong and get up the sideline. So there's different reasons why these explosive plays are happening, and it's coming down to scheme. It's coming down to, players flat out making a play. And so I think that in itself is a good thing. And then also too, Notre Dame has an offense that is built on kind of wearing you down a little bit. They have a very strong physical offensive line. They have a very strong downhill runner, and they keep their running back, room fresh. They use a lot of different running backs, so that also wears down a defense. And so I think naturally that's what's going to happen, right? Like you wear a defense down, you get them into a mindset of, we're showing this, and then you kind of, throw a wrinkle in it, and that's when the big play happens. So I think that's more goes to like their offensive philosophy.
Ding. Jesse got a ding there. There you go.
100%. Because you nailed it. Like when I was watching it live, it was like, man, it feels like we're beating our head against the wall. Again, I hate that. I didn't mean to say we. It felt like Notre Dame was beating their head against the wall with some of the things that they were calling early on. It's like, what are they doing? What are they doing? Say it. Go ahead.
No, Vince and I had a Homer conversation in the last show that we did together, so I think that's why he's self-conscious about it.
It's in my head now. It's right here in my head. But I think that a lot of the stuff that they were doing then set up different things later on in the game 100%. You know what I mean? And, the over formation that they had when they brought Joe Alt to the right side of the formation, there's just different things that they did that then paid off later on. And so you're right. That's when the big plays happen. This team, I feel like, or this school, this program has lacked the big play ability for so long. Yes, every once in a while. I mean, Josh Adams was a big play waiting to happen in the run game.
Fuller.
Is Kaiser to Fuller was the last big play. I think
that's what I was thinking too, as Vince was saying that. Yeah.
Yep. I completely agree.
That's 8 years ago at this point.
Exactly. That's been missing. Like I was a kid shy at that point. Like I've had a child since then. Okay. Like they are missing. They have missed in the past the big play opportunities. Now, I think they have big play opportunities now in the pass game and the run game, which makes this offense that much more explosive. So you can keep this team down and keep this team down, but you got to know in the back of your head, something's about to erupt. Something's about to happen. And I think that's who this offense is right now.
And I think that part of that is some of the stuff that, whether it's, like the look that they gave with the offensive line when they moved the guys around on Audric Estime's touchdown run. But not only that, just like, I feel like Jared Parker's offense, like he found himself in a situation where things weren't going right early on. And how many times over the last few years have we just seen, well, we're going to keep doing that. We're going to keep doing that.
It would go on to the third quarter.
Like, this is supposed to work. On paper, this works. We're going to keep doing it.
Right. It's like, how many times does Pavlov's dog, need to,
when someone plays roulette and they keep hammering black just because red has been coming up over and over and over again. The probability doesn't change. There's still a 50-50 chance every time. And that's like what it felt like, is they were just hammering like, well, it's got to hit at some point. It hasn't hit the 9 other times, but on the 10th, you know what? It's got to hit because I drew it up and it's failed, 9 times in a row. So it's got to hit.
Right. And that's it. Sometimes you're too smart for your own good.
Always comes down to math.
And sometimes you're too smart for your own good. And I think that's kind of the mindset of the past before this year.
Agreed.
Where
from head coach
Jared Parker isn't just, again, He's not just being stubborn because it's like, well, this is what I planned for.
Right.
This should be working. So we're going to keep on doing it. No, he's made adjustments off of the things that he's done, and it's led to other things. Yeah, it's exactly it.
I agree. I think there was a lot of, and I think, honestly, I feel like that is from the top down again. And I know I sound like a broken record, but we've talked many, many times about how Marcus Freeman is so good at assessing what is happening with the way he coaches, the way he does certain things. I mean, he analyzes pretty much everything he does, right? And he adjusts. And that goes all the way back to his first game as defensive coordinator against Florida State, right? He knew that he made a bad call. He called himself out on it in front of the team, and they ate that up. He has done that consistently as a defensive coordinator and then as a head coach in his first year. And then obviously he reevaluated literally everything. Mm-hmm. And that's one of his mantras, right? That challenge everything. He lives by that. And I think that permeates down to the offensive coordinator in this case. He challenged his game plan, and it's not working right now. We need to adjust. And he did.
Yeah, to me, it simply boils down to exactly what Vince was saying. Brian Kelly was never able to admit when he was wrong. Yes. Marcus Freeman is the first person to take accountability. And again, like Vince says, that trickles down on both sides, and why you saw the stubbornness in the past and why you see the ability to admit when they're wrong and figure out a solution on the spot.
It's refreshing.
Did you guys watch the video that I sent you?
Yeah.
No.
I did.
Come on.
I know. I told you I was going to too, and I didn't.
The Kelsey brothers were having a conversation on their podcast about when they were at Cincinnati, and they were in a close game against, who was it? Just like Missouri State
or South Missouri State, some bad team.
And Kelly comes in and he's MFing everybody at halftime, and the defense sucks and the offense and all this different stuff. And I guess they had 3 recruits in for the weekend, like doing a visit, and the recruits had their jerseys on. Like, I don't know if they must have been Bearcat jersey, and they were like standing in the corner, and they said all of a sudden Kelly like caught sight of one of them, and he's like, "Who the F is 53?" Didn't even know who the recruits were in for the weekend.
Wow. There is no more Brian Kelly story than that.
Yeah.
Right there. Like, you don't know I would assume, big recruits that you have on campus that you have allowed into the locker room.
Right.
That you have put jerseys on. Yes. You don't know who they are?
Right.
Tell me that 53 didn't go to Cincinnati.
Well, and I think which Kelsey was it, Jesse? It was was it Jason Kelsey who was like, every time I think of 53, I think of that.
Every time I see number 53, that's all I can think of.
That's great. Oh, I can't wait to listen to that now. I'm going to be laughing the entire time.
But doesn't it feel like Marcus Freeman, with all that stuff you were talking about, like he's aging in dog years, as opposed to, like every game is like another year for him of learning just as much, just where he is as a head coach and the foundation of this program. And because again, it's one thing to say, well, okay, this was a mistake, so now I'm going to do, now I'm going to shift and do this. But it's another thing if shifting and doing, this actually works. And for the most part, every time he's made an adjustment, the second version has worked out pretty well. Just like the whole messaging thing going into last year, talking about winning national championships. And now everything is about win the interval, win the rep, win today, all that stuff. Complete shift in focus. Yep. And it does seem like a completely different focus that this team has a year later.
I mean, look what they've done in the first 3 games, right? I mean, I'm not going to do the math. That's Jesse's department. But they have outscored their opponents in a ridiculous fashion. And I don't care who the opponents are. That didn't happen in the past. And don't tell me that, Brian Kelly put up 72 points against Grambling State. Okay, awesome. Like, good for him. But in this regard, the way Notre Dame is winning and the manner in which they're winning is different than they've ever won in the past. It just is. because they don't win against NC State the way they won against NC State if Brian Kelly is the head coach. There was killer instinct in this game. And I don't like to keep talking about Brian Kelly, but guess what? We're talking about this team and how it's different.
Right.
What else are we comparing it to? We got to compare it to the past.
Yeah.
Yep. Speaking of winning this way, first ever meeting with Central Michigan and Notre Dame today. If Notre Dame is able to score 40-plus points in this game, they could establish a new all-time scoring record. They opened the season with 3 straight games of 40-plus points, something that had only been done 2 times previously in program history. The last time, 1932. The other was in 1900. If they score 40 or more against Central Michigan, it would tie the all-time record for the most 40-point games to start the season. And, of course, it would be a new modern era record for Notre Dame. So talk about doing things a different way. I mean, it's working out pretty well.
Book it, Dano. Okay. That will be, you can etch it into the record books right now that Notre Dame is going to score over 40 points.
You think so?
Oh, I know so. 100%.
That's a
Vince has got inside information. He's a we, so
I'm a we. I've been at practice. I've been in the meetings.
Does this feel like the classic trap game, though, for Notre Dame, Central Michigan this weekend? Vince is shaking his head no. Jesse, what do you think? Vince says it's the Duke game. What do you think? I think it's this game because you just came off a good game against North Carolina State that was supposed to be your first true test, and you've got the big Goliath, Ohio State, sitting next week. The definition of trap game, I think, is like a game that sits between two, especially before the big one. What do you think, Jess?
So I think this game has big-time trap potential, but I don't see it as a trap for Notre Dame. I see it as Marcus. I haven't seen the mental toughness out of a team like this in a while. And I think that is what Marcus Freeman is so good at right now, is getting their singular focus on one game and the ability to,
you've got focus. A mute button, right?
I couldn't get it quick enough. The sneeze was on its way out.
I get it. Believe me. All right.
So Marcus Freeman is really good at getting the team to focus on now and
that
playing.
Sneeze ain't going viral, though, Jesse. That sneeze ain't going viral.
No, it's not.
Now, so I think it has on paper really good potential for a trap game, but I just think Marcus Freeman has this team so focused that it's not actually a trap game.
And I said this earlier in a show that Sean and I did together. I just see zero chance that Notre Dame loses this game. In my opinion, a trap game has to be a game that you can lose, that you have the ability to lose.
Okay.
That's my definition.
I guess my definition is one where at least you
are favored.
You underperform and play ugly. Like you make it looks worse than it should have been at the very least, because again, like you're looking
and that's definitely possible.
That kind of thing.
If they play ugly, they win by 3 touchdowns. Like that's true. You know what I mean? That's why it doesn't feel like a trap game to me.
Okay.
I also feel like Notre Dame has just really good leaders this year on the team as well. And a lot of guys who keep, they require a lot out of their play. Like Sam Hartman is a really experienced player, and I think he demands a lot out of his players. And if they are playing a certain way, I think it'll be addressed by someone like Sam Hartman, and vice versa on defense. I think you have, Cam Hart and JD Bertrand, and I know Bertrand's not playing in the game, but he's still going to be sideline. Yeah. He'll be engaged. He'll be basically another coach on the sideline. I think it's just those are guys who demand a lot out of their players, and they keep everyone accountable. So Notre Dame having really good leaders, I think, also plays into why I just don't feel it as a trap game. And I think they're just so focused on getting better and playing good every week because they know what is coming up, ahead.
Sure. Okay. So there will be no J.D. Bertrand. Marcus Freeman announced on Thursday that he's out, concussion protocol, because of the head injury he suffered last week against North Carolina State. Here's Freeman on the plan for the Mike linebacker position this weekend.
To answer your question, yes, Drake Bowen is. Jaden Alsbury will be. You look at J.D. Bertrand, and when he's out, yes, you lose a lot of production. He's a really good football player, but you lose a captain, you lose the leadership, the verbal communication of a competent guy that's played a lot of snaps. And that's, to me, where I've challenged that room. And Jack Kaiser's played a lot of ball, but you got to be so vocal to get guys lined up. You are a lot of people call the linebackers the quarterback of the defense. And so what I've challenged those guys to do, not only step up with their play, but like the vocal leadership that we need, the communication to get guys lined up and to problem solve. Linebackers are problem solvers, and they have to be an extension of the coordinator to fix the problems on the field. And so you'll see Jack Kaiser, yes, he'll play probably more. Maris Leofeld, he has to be more verbal in his communication. Jalen Sneed will play more. Drake Bowen will play. And Jaden Alsbury will be the next guy to go in, too. So as a collective group, they have to make up for the production you lose in J.D. Bertrand. But each individual has been challenged to be more vocal in their communication amongst the defense.
All right, so there's Marcus Freeman talking about the linebackers, and Vince. Oh, there. Am I back? Did I make it?
Oh no, you're good. You're good.
Okay. I thought you were pointing at me to
I was pointing down at Jesse to answer first.
Okay, I'm just saying, Jess, when you listen to that, we've been leaning all week that it would be Jack Kaiser starting at middle linebacker. Which way are you leaning on this?
I'm actually leaning that I think Drake Bowen is going to start at middle linebacker.
Okay.
And I say that just because of I made that decision about 1 minute ago after I listened to Marcus Freeman talk.
Okay.
And no, seriously, the reason I was Kaiser shifting over to Mike and then Sneed, filling in the role in the will and Maris staying at Rover. I thought that would be the plan, right? But listening to Marcus Freeman talk, he mentioned Drake Bowen first with a lot of confidence of people who need to step up and be vocal. And it almost felt like Sneed was a little bit of an afterthought. And I don't know if that's just because, Drake Bowen is the younger guy and Sneed's been around a little bit longer. And so, needing to see that out of him. But I think it's going to be Drake Bowen. And I think it's a tremendous opportunity for Drake Bowen if that is the case, because it is against an offense that I don't think is, overly hard to defend. And if there's a game to get your feet wet, this is the type of game for Drake Bowen. He's got the athleticism to play it. I think the only thing that's going to hold him back, and Marcus Freeman said it, the linebackers have to be vocal. I would rather Drake Bowen be superb, excellent at getting the defense lined up and having not the best personal play in the game. I would want that compromise if he can get the rest of the defense set up and be vocal.
See, and that's why I still lean toward Kaiser, because it's also going to be Al Golden ultimately making the call on who's going to be out there. And we know that Al Golden values, I think every coach values, knowing your stuff, but Al Golden, based on everything we've seen so far, values that even more, Vince, I think.
Yep, I'm in agreement with you, Sean. I don't have a problem if they did end up going the Drake Bowen route. I mean, I think he's going to get a lot of playing time regardless. But at the end of the day, I need my middle linebacker to be the leader of the defense, and I just don't know if Drake Bowen is ready for that. Maybe he is, and maybe he shows that to us on Saturday. But I know what I have in Jack Kaiser. Jack is a known commodity, right? I love me some known commodity when it comes to coaching, man. And that's why I would put him there at least for the first few series until they really got the game kind of underway, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
I have no problem with Drake Bowen being in the game. Zero.
Oh, me either. I think he will play, and I think it'll be good for him.
Sure, absolutely.
But
I got Jack out there first, man.
And I don't disagree with what you're saying, Jess, because again, all week long, I've been leaning towards it's probably going to be Kaiser, but hearing Marcus Freeman say that, it does make you lean, I think, more towards Bowen potentially. So it's going to be really curious to see which one of them's out there.
See, I think it goes the other way around, fellas. I think that Bowen gets to start, and if things get a little dicier, it's not going well, that's when you shift Kaiser over. I think you give the young guy a shot and you give him confidence because he is one of the top guys right now in the program. He was a big-time recruit. He's shown the ability to play. And he's still got experienced linebackers around him. Even though they're not going to be screaming it out, they're still going to be helping him, right? Like Maris and Jack aren't just going to look to Drake and be like, screw you, we're not going to help you. It's going to be a chain reaction of those guys all being in, harmony together. So I'm going to defend it. I think Drake gets the start, and I'll be excited if he does.
All right.
No, I think it's a great idea. I would much rather have the guy out there who I know is going to make all the right decisions to start the game, and then you go and you make a change. Not like, oh crap, things aren't going well. Let's get the guy in there who knows what he's doing. Does that make sense? Like that? Yeah. I don't like that reversal.
There's strong arguments either way.
And that's why I think you start off with the guy who knows what they're doing. And if things are going well, you go to the young buck. So,
but yeah, I see it.
And I think most coaches would lean toward that. And I know most fans would like it. Probably the way Jesse's talking, get the young guy at Central Michigan. We should be able to start these guys. I've just always gone with you start your best, whoever your best is, and once your best, scores enough, puts the score and the game in a position where you can work more of those young guys in, where there's more leeway if a mistake is made, that kind of thing. I think that's the way you go, rather than trying to go the other way and then reverse it. That's just the line of thinking that I've always had.
But isn't it fun to have an argument about two talented guys who could both be super, productive at one position? Like, I feel like you're in pretty good shape either way, and these are the backups to this position. So pretty nice to have this argument, frankly.
Yep. So it's Central Michigan, and turns out Jim McElwain is the head coach at Central Michigan.
I don't think I realized that until I started doing research on Central Michigan, to be honest with you.
The only reason I knew is I watched their opener against Michigan State, and they showed him on the sideline, and I was like, hold it, what? Jim McElwain?
And he's been there for 5 years now. Yes. That blew my mind more than anything. Like, where have I been the last 4 years? I did not know this.
Exactly.
And Central Michigan isn't that far away.
No. It's only 200 miles away, which kind of makes it weird that this is the first time that they've ever played Notre Dame.
This is true.
As close as they are. But they lost that Michigan State game 31-7, and then they turned around and beat New Hampshire 45-42 last week. They scored some points.
It was a shootout.
But they gave up some points to that.
Yes,
FCS.
they did.
Man.
Yes, they did. And look, New Hampshire was like a top 10 team in the FCS, and they're a good quality opponent. There's no doubt about it. So I think that's actually a pretty decent win for them. But I'm sorry, Chip fans, like Notre Dame's offense is a little bit better than New Hampshire's offense.
And I mean, really, the whole thing, like Marcus Freeman talked him up earlier this week. He was doing his best Lou Holtz, build him up and all that kind of stuff. And look, they've got a good athlete at quarterback. Bert Emanuel Jr. is the son of former NFL wide receiver Bert Emanuel, who played for the Falcons and Bucks. And he had 21 carries for 101 yards and 2 touchdowns last week against New Hampshire. And he threw for 193 and threw for 2 more touchdowns in that win. Obviously, not a lot happened in that opener, only scoring 7 points against Michigan State. But it's another mobile quarterback, I guess, is the biggest thing. So, Jesse, if you've got your whiteboard ready to go, unless you have some big setup for the whiteboard. I know you like to sort of –
So
there's like this on-ramp that Jesse has for his whiteboard these days, it seems like. So, yes, got to gain speed.
I need to break some news here.
Oh, my goodness.
I got more concerned on Notre Dame's offensive side of the ball compared to Bert Emanuel Jr. And Notre Dame's defense because, listen, I thought about it. I watched them on film. There's not a lot to it. It's like a simpler version of Central Michigan, of NC State, and it's a lot of what they did last week. And there's not as much of a threat in the passing game because he's not as great of a thrower. But I did come up with a really good offensive concept that I am dying to share with everyone.
So, when we have these pre-production meetings, might be good information to pass along, like what exactly the presentation is going to be about.
So you can
I'll still go
up.
into some Bert Emanuel Jr. Listen, the defensive ends can't crash up field hard. You can't leave running plays, and there's going to be a lot more design QB power runs.
It's basically the same as last week with a little bit faster guy.
Yeah, and more design and power QB run schemes. Like they're going to pull guys out in front of him, and it's just going to be a straight up take the snap, and he's going to be a running back. He's just going to follow the lead blockers, and he doesn't. Brendan Armstrong was bad passing this week. He's even worse of a passer. So. Right. Again, I apologize, but I felt like I was just reiterating a lot of what I did last week, and it wasn't as fun as what I was going to do on offense.
Well, let's just whip out that offensive whiteboard then, baby.
Stick your sorries in a sack, young man, right. Because this is the one and only time that you're going to hear me say this. I agree with Jesse on this wholeheartedly because they did try to do some QB power with Armstrong, and it got absolutely stoned last week. They're going to try that again this week with lesser linemen leading up in there, and they're going to get stoned again. I mean, they basically just have to recycle what they did defensively, and they're going to be just fine.
All right. So the shrimp store called, and it wants Bert Emanuel Jr. back. Let's. I
mean, it is what it is. He is a much better runner, I think.
That's what I mean. I think he's more dynamic of a runner.
Too. Yeah. All right. So here is the whiteboard, and this is Notre Dame on offense, Central Michigan on defense. Blow it up and go, Jesse.
Yeah, so I need to keep it a little zoomed out just because of I need to get some depth in this play.
Okay.
Notre Dame is going to be going up against a 4-2-5 defense. Central Michigan last year had one of the best defensive lines in the country. They lost some of their big studs. Not as good this year. They are 84th in pass defense. I think Notre Dame is going to have a big passing game. They have a very weak inside linebacker core. So if we're looking at the whiteboard, I'm talking about these two guys right here in a 4-2-5, the two. These guys, they played a little bit of last year. Kyle Moretti, number 22. Justin Whiteside, number 45. I'm going to break it to you. These guys are slow. They're not as athletic as guys. Put it like this. That linebacker for NC State that ran a 4.4 last week, these boys are not touching a 4.4.
He was a stud.
They are not sniffing a 4.4.
Like, if he wants to jump into the portal, he would get all of my attention if I was Notre Dame to try to get him to come.
Let me digress for just a second because Jesse and I were talking about that the other day on the show. It came up that Tobias got ran down. Not like we're the first guys to bring up Tobias getting run down from behind by that guy, right? Am I right?
Right.
Okay, I'm just making sure everyone agrees with me here because then someone goes on the YouTube and says, well, Tobias wasn't at full stride because the wide receiver that was next to him slowed him down. And so I went back and I watched that play 3 times today. And I went back and I don't comment much, but it was Holden Stays, number 13. It wasn't even a wide receiver. And 2, he did not slow him down. He was at full stride.
He was full stride,
and
baby.
That dude caught him. And I'm not like this came up with the conversation of team speed and stuff like that. And I'm not knocking Tobias Merriweather. The NC State linebacker obviously has very above average speed.
Yes.
But it's still not a good look when one of your best skill position players is getting run down from behind by a linebacker. That goes to team speed. It's like Notre Dame has speed in places, but it is not elite across the board. That is the point.
Yeah, even if Tobias
Does anybody disagree with that?
No.
Again, complete digression, but
you're allowed.
You are the host.
With the most.
And again, I'm not. It was not meant as a knock on.
It
Tobias
was just an
Merriweather.
example proving a point, kind of.
But like, we got nitpicked by somebody who's watching it. Tobias was at full stride. There was no doubt about that. And Holden Stays, the tight end Holden Stays, not the wide receivers. The guy tried to correct us. Did not slow him down.
Yeah. Yeah, he got caught. And I
just got caught.
personally think it says more about the speed of the linebacker than it does about the lack of speed by Tobias, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, and again, I'm not trying to say Tobias is slow.
Right. But your point stands. He still got caught by a linebacker. I mean, that's the bottom line, right? And then my favorite thing is, well, Chris Tyree got caught by him too. Well, Chris Tyree literally stopped. So that doesn't really count. Now, when Chris Tyree was at full speed, that linebacker, number 11, was at the exact same distance the entire time he was chasing him. Chris Tyree did not pull away from that guy, and Chris Tyree does have elite speed. So that tells me that linebacker also has elite speed.
Right.
So,
yes, he does have elite speed.
So these linebackers will not have elite speed this weekend.
Not so much.
No, they are some
back on track.
They are some unathletic boys. So who the game is really going to be decided by is these slow inside linebackers. And really too, and again, in a 4-2-5 defense, these outside linebackers they're not outside linebackers, they're called adjusters. Those are, hybrid between linebackers and safeties.
They're not accountants.
No, not accountants, adjusters. Okay. And so that's who primarily the game's gonna be dictated by, how Notre Dame decides to influence these, linebackers / defensive backs, because in the box they're going to be undersized, and then in the pass game they're just going to be flat out probably too slow. And so what I would like to see is, if you're going against a 4-2-5, how are you going to beat it? And man, you got to have quick change of direction routes. And the ability to run the ball. They're going to be able to run the ball in zone. How do you beat it? You overload the zone. You hit some hard play action and some flood routes, right? And so we talked on, what show is that? I believe Tuesday, Wednesday. All the days are mixed up. I think it was Tuesday. What I would like to see out of Notre Dame, I would like to see them first play of the game hit a nice play action, and that's how you're going to beat zone against a 4-2-5 defense. And so this would be, if I'm Jared Parker, how I'm drawing up this heavy play action play and taking my deep shot down the field. So what I would do in this defense, again, they're either going to be playing man or zone. So I'm going to assume they're going to be playing zone, which is primarily going to be a cover 3. So this DB is going to have this third of the field. This DB is going to have middle of the field. And this last DB is going to have this third of the field. You got 3 guys playing a third of the field. That's called cover 3. And so then what does that look like after that? These outside guys are going to be playing in the flat on both sides. Can't leave the flat empty. And then these linebackers are going to be playing what's called a hook and curl, or just trying to sit underneath some of these routes in the hook and curl zone. So again, if I'm Jared Parker, what do I do to beat this? What am I hitting on the heavy play action play to start the game? So play action to Audric. He hits a hard play action. Immediately, I would have him occupy this zone of the field. That immediately kind of accounts for this outside linebacker. And then I would have the single side wide receiver simply run a streak and hug the sideline as much as possible. That takes away this defender or the zone of the field. And then I was just talking about how you beat zone, you flood a zone, you hit flood routes. So on this trip side, basically, because I should have put a disclaimer out. They're in 12 personnel, and I expect Notre Dame to run a lot of 12 personnel this weekend. I think it plays into a nice play action play, because they're going to be undersized. They're going to want to run the ball, and that's just what Notre Dame does. So I would have these 3 wide receivers. 2 of them are tight ends. One of them is a wide receiver. Run flood routes. I'd have my inside guy run an intermediate flood route that occupies this linebacker in this zone. I'd have, this is probably going to be Holden Stays. I would have him run the intermediate flood route over the middle. That is going to take this linebacker zone out, because he's going to be carrying him. And then I would have that, maybe this is Greathouse or Tobias. I'd have them be running the deep flood route over the middle. And so what does this do? This puts the free safety in the middle of the field zone in a bind. What does he do? Who does he help out in this play? Because all of his zones are flooded. Does he go over top and help, the streak on the sideline? Does he come underneath to the intermediate flood route? Or does he stay deep and help on this deeper flood route with this DB over here? In the end of the day, whoever he helps, someone's going to be left in man on man. Is it the guy, streaking up the sideline, or is it the intermediate or deep flood route, depending on where the free safety goes. So that's what I would do if I'm Jared Parker on play one. I'd hit a nice play action and hit these flood routes.
I like your concept, and the beauty of it is you've only got 10 guys on the field, so there's actually room for one more wide receiver to leave somebody else unaccounted for, right?
I got all 11.
Where's the 11th? You got 5 offensive linemen. Then you got the quarterback. That's 6. You got 2 wide receivers. That's 7 and 8. You've got a tight end. That's 9, and the running back is 10.
I got 2 tight ends.
Well, that's still
1.
Oh,
2,
I see.
3,
I see.
4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11.
Nope, that's my bad. Okay, yeah. So you basically
Sorry.
Nope, that's my bad. I needed to blow it up more so I could actually see him.
I've been looking at it in full screen, so because if it's in our little window, I can't see it either.
Sorry, fellas, but that is my concept right there.
You had 11. I was wrong. Yep,
that's good though.
I like that concept.
It is good. I love a good flood concept, and I also love a good concept where you're boiling it down to looking at one guy.
Exactly.
Whatever that guy does, he's wrong. And
all Hartman has to do is read that safety, move him where he wants with his eyes, and someone's going to be open.
Exactly. And that's what I mean. Look, let's be honest. That's one of the things that Sam Hartman does the best is using his eyes, using his shoulders to manipulate a DB, to manipulate a safety. He did it on the touchdown to Greathouse, right? In the last game where he threaded the needle between 3 defenders. He got that safety to move exactly where he wanted him to go, and then he instantly hit Greathouse out of the break. That's Sam Hartman to a T. And so if he only has to read one guy, that's child's play, man. So
and then, like Vince said, there's no right answer.
Well, that's the best part, right? And that's the basis of an RPO. That's the basis of a flood concept. Defense is wrong, period.
Concur. Great explanation by the coach and Coach Junior, I guess. Guys, are you ready for some rapid fire?
Booyah! Let's go.
Here we go. Do you buy or sell Sam Hartman as a Heisman Trophy candidate right now?
I sell him right now. Ask me the question again in 3 weeks. He's played Navy, Tennessee State, teams. His best performance, North Carolina State. There's just better numbers against similar opponents out there. I think when Sam Hartman starts having good games and winning the big games, that's when I'll be more of a buyer of the Heisman hype. I think he's a Heisman. Yeah, he's in it discussions, but I wouldn't put him in the top 5 right now. I wouldn't put him in my top 5 right now, just because I think what helps him is if he can beat strong opponents. That goes a long way as well as having good numbers.
Let me ask you this: who's in your top 5 then? What strong opponents have been beaten?
I have Shedeur Sanders up there. I have Quinn Ewers up there. I have Jaden Daniels up there. I have Penix up there. That's 4. Yeah, I think I could. Caleb Williams, the reigning Heisman.
But who have they beaten?
You Jaden Daniels beat LSU. Shedeur Sanders is just putting out numbers that I think no one expected, and it's godly.
I agree with that.
What I mean?
What about Penix? Who's Washington beaten so far?
No, I mean, that's fair because really the only team that's beaten anybody so far is Florida State, right? Or,
in Texas.
In Texas, yeah.
So I agree with Quinn Ewers, right? I'm not saying I disagree with some of the names that Jesse brought up, but your criteria for not putting Sam Hartman in the conversation, I don't think holds a ton of water because I buy him as a candidate. I'm not buying him as the leader in the clubhouse because I think right now, if you were giving out the Heisman Trophy, I think Shedeur Sanders wins it because of all the hype that he's getting and the play on the field, right? Sam Hartman doesn't have that behind him, but I still think that he's a candidate based on the numbers that he's put up and the efficiency and all of those different things. Now, will he be a stronger candidate once he beats Ohio State or once he beats Ohio State and Duke or whatever the case may be? Absolutely. But I think right now he's at least in the conversation, which makes him a candidate.
I think he's working his way into candidacy, and I think that it helps. Like when Lee Corso brought it up on College Game Day last week, that he thinks that he's going to be at least a finalist for the Heisman Trophy. But I will say he wouldn't still have plus 2,200 odds in Las Vegas if he were a true candidate right now.
Where does that place him, though? Like, as far as
he's at least 10th down, I think.
That puts him around 10th or 11th.
Okay.
Something like that. So he's within striking distance. I think he becomes a true candidate if everything goes well next week.
Right. To me, it's like I think the best comparison or analogy is like a golfer, right? Like he's staying in it on the front nine right now.
Yeah.
But he's really looking to explode on that back nine and surge past everyone and have a great Sunday, I guess is the best way I'm looking at it. But I agree with you, Vince. Like
he's looking at moving day, right?
Yeah. And I think I agree with a lot of what Vince was saying though too. Like he's right on that fringe, and I know that's not a great answer, but
it's accurate.
It's
though.
just kind of where I'm at.
Yeah, no, it's accurate,
and that's how I see him. He's still on the fringe to me, not a true candidate just yet, but he is on the fringe. But as with all these guys, and that's a great point that Vince made, as these teams start playing better competition, that's when you're going to see some fluctuations in the performances. Like even Shedeur Sanders, as great as he is, has not faced a real test yet.
Exactly.
So
exactly.
It's a great story, and it obviously ties in with his dad and all that stuff. But he hasn't played a great team yet. Once
what's crazy though is like he'll get to go against that USC Colorado game is going to be nuts. Like,
and that is coming up, baby.
No defense and just like NCAA football video game numbers from those quarterbacks, and I think Oregon could be very similar too.
I know,
sure. And Washington, if they play Washington, I don't even know if they do, but like that, Washington's defense is iffy at best, but their offense is, I think they're throwing for an average like 450 yards a game or something crazy like that.
It's amazing how a team that nobody has cared about for the better part of 20 years has become so polarizing in 2 games.
I'm about to get my buff.
I'm talking about Colorado, of course.
Yeah.
Because, like, who are you going to pull for, Vince, when Colorado plays USC? Is it a slam dunk that you'll be pulling for Colorado?
It is not a slam dunk because I have to look at it through the eyes of Notre Dame, right? Because I want USC to have a strong strength of schedule. I want them to have I want them to be a top 10
Vince
team.
wants to beat them when they're undefeated.
Yes, that's what I want. So I think I would be rooting for USC as much as it would be painful to do so. So it's very interesting, though. And look, Sam Hartman is not a Heisman Trophy finalist unless Notre Dame has 11 wins.
Yep.
They got to win 11 games for him to be a finalist, period. Obviously, 12 would be great
because
too. I do.
USC didn't go undefeated last year, and Caleb Williams got it.
I just don't know. I don't see Sam Hartman being that dynamic of a player. He's a good college quarterback. He's not going to have those dynamic Heisman moment.
He doesn't have the Twitter reels where he's freaking juking out 3 guys and throwing the ball downhill downfield like Patrick Mahomes does. He's not as sexy as quarterback as Caleb Williams.
He needs to produce. He needs to produce.
Colorado, what sells for him is wins.
Yes. Colorado and USC play September 30th. Same day Notre Dame plays Duke. Please, TV gods, let us be able to watch both of those games.
Did you guys see the slate the day that Notre Dame plays Ohio State? I can't remember all the games, but there is just like heavy hitter at all, like noon, 3 and 7. And obviously, Notre Dame's in the night game. But like, there's just nice heavy hitting matchups all day. It'll be a good day of college football. I can't remember the exact teams, but it's a good slate.
How early does the start times come out? Is it just a week in advance, like the Sunday before, or is it more? Is it earlier than that, Sean?
For most of them, are like they're like a week in advance. Yeah.
All right.
I know.
I've got that Duke game circled, man, because my school decided to have a homecoming dance that night.
Oh, brother.
So I hope it's an early game.
I would doubt that's going to be another noon game.
I would agree with you. I'm at least hoping for a 3:30 game.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm hoping.
That way I can take the late shift.
But even if it's 3:30, that doesn't do us a lot of good as far as watching other games. Because
it doesn't do us any good.
That just messes the night up.
I said leave space. Am I right?
For the Holy Spirit.
Okay, so one of our subscribers started a thread on the boards the other day asking if Notre Dame would get left out of the college football playoff if they go undefeated. And his theory in this is he posted a list of possible multiple undefeated teams at the end of the year. Here are the potential unbeaten teams from each conference that he listed. Florida State from the ACC, Georgia from the SEC, Texas in the Big 12, Washington, USC he has in the Pac-12. I'm assuming that means one of the two of them, and obviously not both of them.
Can't be
since they
USC.
play each other. Right. And then, well, and that's a great point. I was going to make that point when I was done reading this list. But then in the Big Ten, he has Ohio State, Penn State, Michigan. You're absolutely right, because if Notre Dame is unbeaten, USC is not going to be unbeaten.
And neither
so
is Ohio State.
Take them off.
Neither
would Ohio State. Yep, exactly. But there are still other possibilities that he lists. But so the question is, if there are at least 5 unbeaten teams at the end of the season and Notre Dame is one of them, would the Irish be left out of the college football playoff?
I would say, and sorry, Vince, I don't want to take your thunder on this, because I've been thinking about it for a while now.
Hit it.
I would say no, because there's a large, and I think the biggest thing it rests on is who else is left. Well, I'm just going to say no, because Notre Dame would have just such a strong, I think, strength of resume. In comparison, you'd have, you would, if Ohio State has one loss and they beat Michigan, then it's like, okay, well, you're essentially saying they're better than all of those teams out there in the Big Ten. And then if you beat USC, and then USC maybe goes on to beat Washington, I just think Notre Dame has such a strong strength of schedule if they take care of business and go undefeated, that you couldn't leave out a 12-0 Notre Dame, knowing their brand, their national brand, and the teams that they beat along the way to get there.
Don't kid yourself. Brand has something to do with it. I agree with you wholeheartedly on that one when it comes to eyeballs and all of those different things on the college football playoff. 100% matters. Here, my argument is very similar to Jesse's. I think the strength of schedule will win out, because Notre Dame will most likely, if they're undefeated, they will have beaten 3 top 10 teams.
Well, not only that, but 3 teams that have been like Duke would probably play in the ACC championship. USC would probably play in the Pac-12 championship. And there's a chance that Ohio State could still play in the Big Ten championship. So you're talking about 3 wins over teams that are playing in their conference championships.
Right. I don't think you can argue with their strength of schedule at that point. And I'm not even saying they would be the number 1 seed. All they got to do is get in.
Right.
So you can make the argument maybe that 3 other teams, and I haven't figured out the wins and the loss. I haven't.
That's where I'm at, Vince.
But what I can tell you is I know who Notre Dame would have beaten, and that strength of schedule at the very least is top 4.
And that is the case for it. Yeah, and that's the first case for it. But what you said also does matter, Vince. Having Notre Dame in the college football playoff will matter to that committee, because it is also a TV show. And you continue to hear every year about what the ratings are for the college football playoff. And it does. It equals money. And that's, if they have the chance to have Notre Dame, they're not going to leave Notre Dame out. Now, if you ask me if it's realistic that 5 teams end up undefeated at the end of the season, I'll tell you absolutely not. Notre Dame's not getting left out if they're one of 5 unbeaten teams because of the resume and because of what we just talked about. But there's no way there's going to be 5 unbeaten teams at the end of the year.
No chance. There might be 2. You know what I mean? There has never been a case where there's been 4 undefeated teams, if I'm not mistaken, that were shoo-ins to the college football playoff. There's always been that question about 1-loss team versus 1-loss team versus a 2-loss. There's always been that argument going into the final ranking, right?
Yep.
It's never going to be that clear cut. It's never going to be that way. But it's a really fun thought experiment when you say 5 undefeated teams. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah, exactly. Fill in the blank. NC State's home field advantage last week was blank.
A non-story like that. And I'm sorry. It was a great story going in that, Notre Dame on the road, Power 5 program, and they're really going to bring in, fans are going to be excited. Yeah, they were really excited. And Notre Dame looked like garbage at the beginning of the game. That's why you play an entire game. And I think I said this on Monday, Sean, because we kind of threw this one back and forth with each other. If it was such a great home field experience, then why did half the stadium leave? Like, stick around for the game. They're going to play it. Like, they left. They left the stadium. They left the parking lot.
I don't know the last time you were a little too drunk at noon and then you were asked to take a break for 2 hours and, had a little nap, and that nap went in from 2 hours to 4 hours. It's hard to keep the kids rallied, after a long rain delay like that.
They're already there. Come on. Come on.
No, to me, it was subpar until the rain delay and then after the rain delay, it wasn't even that. It was nothing.
Yeah.
Basically that rain delay shot it all down. And I think that the Audric Estime run was the ultimate, dagger into the whole home field advantage. I felt it for the first 5 or 6 minutes. The fans were going nuts. Notre Dame was going 3 and out. NC State was buzzing around. Everyone was fresh. And I think the weather delay just calmed everyone down, right? On Notre Dame's side, it calmed down the players and it calmed down the NC State fans. And then after that, it was done.
Look, it is what we thought it would be. It was a non-factor. And it was if NC State had somehow come up with some big play early on and set everybody into a frenzy, I don't know, maybe it's more, but the weather did play into it. But even then, just like you said, Jess, like 5 or 6 minutes in, you didn't even hear that crowd. And we heard from people who were there who said it just really wasn't that loud. And we didn't think it would be that loud. I mean, I'm sure that it's a nice little, home field advantage on a Saturday when you're playing some ACC teams and whatever. They had a nice little streak going there, but it was never going to be the advantage that it was being built up to.
Yes, that was grasping at straws for NC State fans is what it was. And look, I mean, I guess it is what it is. They were excited. Notre Dame's coming to town. They're going to play spoiler and all these different things. Just didn't come to fruition, folks. And if you weren't wearing red, you knew that was what was going to happen. Yep. So, sorry.
Guys, if we only talk about one coach the rest of the season that is not currently at Notre Dame, should it be Brian Kelly? Should it be Deion Sanders? Should it be Jim Harbaugh or Tommy Rees? You can only pick one that we can talk about for the rest of the year.
I'm going to go ahead and take this one on first. I'm throwing out 2 names. Brian Kelly, I don't care. I'm throwing out a second name. Jim Harbaugh, you can go. I don't care about Jim Harbaugh. I think he's annoying, and every time I see something about him, it's not even worth my time. He's just overall, I don't care about him. So that leaves me Deion, it leaves me Tommy Rees, and I have different reasons for both. Tommy Rees, I got into a little bit of some Twitter wars last week, just kind of pointing out some facts that, Tommy Rees isn't responsible for the 34 points given up by Alabama at home, and Quinn Ewers playing a fantastic game. And then on the flip side, I love Deion. I'm a big supporter of Deion. I think that he can handle things a little bit better, but his kids play hard and they buy into him. And I think that's worth talking about because Colorado is going to have far more than one win compared to last year and the roster flip. So to me, I'm going to go with Deion because I think he's doing impressive things, and I think it deserves to be highlighted. And we're talking about primetime, baby. He's always going to give you something to talk about.
I'm already sick of primetime. I actually have respect for what he is accomplishing because I agree with everything that Jesse said. These kids play really hard for him.
Yeah,
and
they do.
Shedeur Sanders has been at Colorado for 6 months or whatever it's been, and he's already bought into protect the buff and all those different. Like I appreciate that.
And they don't play dirty on the field.
No,
Vince.
they don't.
They play good ball. They play exactly how you're supposed to.
He is coaching those kids the right way. Again, he could go about some of the things that he says in his press conferences a little bit differently, but whatever. I'm already sick of hearing about him because I think at the end of the day, they're probably going to end up being about a 500 team.
Yep.
But that's a huge turnaround from one win. Yep. But again, are they going to be like spoilers to the national championship or anything like that? I don't know. So I'm sick of him. I agree with you on Jim Harbaugh. My goodness, I don't care about Jim Harbaugh. He will make his own bed and have to sleep in it, and it's usually pretty ugly. And I am never shocked at how his kids play. for him, and I don't mean that as a compliment. And then you know what? I have no ill will towards Tommy Rees in any stretch of the imagination. I agree. I agreed with your Twitter war that you were having wholeheartedly. It was not his fault. He has a true freshman quarterback who's just an amazing athlete that hasn't figured out how to play quarterback yet, and he'll get there. I'll leave that one there. It will. This question will always be start and end with Brian Kelly. Always. It will always be that way.
Brian Kelly will always be Vince's punching bag. Damn it!
I was going to say there has to be a punching bag we can come at, and I know that some people get tired of hearing us talk about Brian Kelly, but it is great sport on this show to be able to take shots at Brian Kelly. I mean, we started off with the Kelsey story earlier from the Brian Kelly in the Cincinnati locker room. It's like that is prime time stuff right there. Like we would have to bleep out half of the stuff that they were saying to play it on the show, but like give me more of that.
Yes.
And I think at some point I don't disagree with much of what Jesse's saying about Deion Sanders, but I've already, I haven't hit the fill, my fill line like Vince has with Deion.
You're not overflowing out of your water cup.
But I'm getting there. I'm getting close.
Yeah.
But at the same time, then, like you've got the Colorado State, Jay Norvell. Did you see what he was saying? Like throwing shade at Deion about
he
should be taking his hat off and his sunglasses off, like to talk to adults or something like that. It's like, dude, you got to go play this guy on Saturday, and you've already seen what he's done. You might just want to zip it.
Yeah.
Well, that to me, instead of taking the starters out, Deion's going to let him ride. You know what I mean? He's not going to feel bad about it anymore. So that was
stupid. That was a stupid comment to
if
make.
If people want Deion to tone it down, don't take shots at him.
Yeah. Like I work in a high school. Okay. There's just certain battles you don't fight anymore. Taking your hat off when talking to an adult is not one of those battles that you fight anymore.
Right.
It's just not. Like the no hat policy in the school, like that went the way of the dinosaurs, folks. You know what I mean? Like that, it's not a sign of disrespect. That's Deion, man. Like, and that's a lot of the youth of today, and it's not changing anytime soon. And so, I don't have an issue with that part at all. It's some of the words that come out of his mouth,
right?
Like the whole, I'm a black man with a 75% black roster and that scares people or something. Like, what are you talking about? Like that was weird. Like, that's just a weird thing to say because Marcus Freeman is that exact same thing. And I don't think people are scared or whatever. He's like, it's just, I don't know. I like that kind of stuff. It's like, okay, let's
100%,
but
right.
I will always root against Brian Kelly and try to make fun of him in any way possible. Always.
He just gave Notre Dame fans a reason,
over and over again. That's just,
and he's already shown with the stuff that he's done since he's been at LSU that he is that guy.
Right. Well, and the fact that he can't, as the kids would say, he can't keep Notre Dame out of his mouth. Right. And so if he can keep coming back to it, then so can we.
That's right. That's exactly right.
It's like the giving tree.
All right, let's do some game props on this sucker. Notre Dame Central Michigan.
Yeah, my favorite part of the show. If everyone was smart, they'd listen because all of our 3-leg parlays hit last week. Bang, bang, bang.
That's right. We didn't build a parlay because the lines and the props came out a little bit later this time. Notre Dame minus 34.5. The over-under is 51.5. This number, the over-under the point total did drop a little bit over the last couple of days. Dropped a couple points. What do you guys think?
Give me the over on both, baby. This is a 50 burger. Notre Dame's getting that 50 on itself, and that'll cover the spread.
I can't say I disagree with what Jesse's saying. I think there's a chance that Notre Dame keeps their starters in maybe even a little bit longer than normal just because of the game that's next week.
Yep.
Want to make sure everybody's firing the same cylinder, all that fun stuff. So I think they're going to score at will in this game. I agree, man. I would take Notre Dame minus the points, and I would take the over for the over-under.
I'm with you. Completely agree. And we'll give our predictions here in a minute. But yeah, I think I don't have Notre Dame quite getting the over by themselves with my total.
I don't either.
Even though
I
might be a little bit shy. I don't know. But yeah, I've got them covering both. Over under 238.5 passing yards for Sam Hartman.
This is a sharp number. I would not actually. Well, I can't say that because I did play it, but I would take. I would take the over in this case. So to me, what this boils down to is you got to look at Sam Hartman's yards in comparison to quarters played because he hasn't been playing full games yet. So when you're working numbers, you got to look at quarters played. He's played 10 total. Wait, no, he played 3, and then he played 2, so 5. He's played 9 quarters. That's right. I did it right. He's played 9 quarters. You take his total.
Come on, math.
Take his total yards, divide that by 9. I think he plays 3 quarters. That's 244 passing yards, just over. Sharp number. But I'm taking the over.
He brought his math.
Look, I did not think about it that deeply, not surprisingly. But I agree with taking the over. And my logic is a little bit different, I guess. But the reason I would take the over is he pounded the over last week. And the over was about 224, 225, something like that. And he was way over. And he stunk in the first quarter. And I just don't see how that, like, even if he starts out slow, I still think he hits the over.
He had 194 in the first half against Tennessee State. And so the biggest question is in this game, and this is what makes it to me one that I don't think that I would touch, is how long he's going to stay in the game. That's what we don't know. We don't is Marcus Freeman going to pull him out at halftime again if it's 35-3 or, whatever, like
3 quarters.
I mean, you think it's 3 quarters, but we don't know if it's going to be.
I got to talk myself into it, okay?
I was not expecting Steve Angeli to start the second half, even with the score, what it was. I could have seen like midway through the third quarter, but I was not expecting Steve Angeli that early. So I wouldn't touch this, and I lean towards under just because if they do everything they're supposed to in the first half, then he's going to be out before he gets a chance to get to it.
You're like the Kirk Herbstreit of our show. You just got to be different.
Don't hate me because I'm different.
They're going to screenshot this and post it everywhere.
Over under 2.5 touchdown passes for Hartman.
This is, again, a really tough number, and this is at plus value, actually, meaning that it's favored to not happen. But you know what? I've taken the over in 3 straight games. I'm doing it for a 4th, baby. Give me those 3 touchdowns. I think he's 3 right on the dot.
Yeah, and I think that there's going to be a couple touchdowns where it's a short pass and a long gain. I think he's going to get the ball to his athletes in space, and the Notre Dame athletes are far superior to the Central Michigan defensive athletes.
I see an RB running back screen for a touchdown.
Absolutely. Yep, I completely agree. It's going to be something silly and short like that where he throws the ball 5 yards but ends up picking up 70 or something along those lines and a touchdown. I absolutely could see it. So I would take the over, and not just because he's going to throw bombs or whatever. I just think there's going to be a couple short ones that turn into big gains.
I agree. I think he's going to be over as well. And I mean, if he gets the ball with a minute to go, or I mean, basically at this point, if he gets the ball with 30 seconds to go in the first half, he's probably going to end up throwing a touchdown pass. So,
seriously.
Yeah, I mean, so there's one just by itself. You're telling me he's not going to get 2 over the course of the rest of the first half. So,
right.
Yeah, this is over for me as well. Over under 37.5 receiving yards for Chris Tyree.
Yeah,
over.
Agreed.
That's one catch again, and that's Vince just talked about it. A short crosser over the middle. Tyree makes a guy miss. Goodbye.
Bye.
Part of my parlay last week.
Nobody's catching Chris Tyree next week or this week coming
those
up.
Slow linebackers. I'm telling you.
Yep. 49.5 receiving yards for Jaden Thomas. This one's a little tougher for me.
This one's very tough.
It's very hit or miss.
Yeah.
It's like either he gets like 20 or 30, or he's going for like 80 or between like 70
or
and
0.
80.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is where you get into the way the ball has been distributed. Like 37.5 for Tyree is easier.
And I think what makes it easier for Tyree is he's got more of that big play, and just one catch can get him the 40. That's not Thomas's game. It's going to take 2, 3, 4 receptions to get over that number.
Yeah. Agreed. Absolutely agree. And I just don't know that they're going to need Jaden Thomas in this game.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Kind of like last week.
They're going to let their speed cook.
Yeah, they didn't need him last week. Now, he was out there blocking his butt off and doing other things, right? But they didn't need him to be this prolific pass catcher. I number one, I would stay away from this. Number two, if I had to take it, I might take the under, to be honest.
I just don't know too.
I just don't know that this game sets up real well for him. Watch, he'll have like 80 yards and 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, we're all going to eat crow on Monday.
Yeah.
I think that Audric Esteme's rushing total last week was it 89 or was it 80 something?
It was 89 and a half. I believe.
89 and a half.
He got
102 and a half. Yeah. Good point. It's 102 and a half this week.
I mean, they're committed to getting him his touches, and he's going to be able to break off a big one in the first or second quarter. I think he played a little bit against Navy towards the end of the game when they took starters out. I don't think that's going to happen again. But he hasn't proven me wrong. And with the amount of touches he's gotten in every single game, I don't see that going down. So give me the over. These are bad linebackers. They're not going to be able to bring him down.
Good point.
That's actually probably the best point that you made right there. The number scares me a little bit because I don't know if he's going to break off an 80-yard run again. You know what I mean? And if I'm this coaching staff, I don't know that I give him a ton of carries in this game. Just enough to, get his feet wet and say he played and all that fine stuff. But, you need number 7 next week badly. And so I just don't know. I would take the under here because I just don't know he's going to play enough to get to that spot.
This feels like a game where he can crank off like a couple runs. He'll probably crank off a couple of runs, might not be 80 yards, but like a 30-yarder or a 40-yarder, that kind of thing, and be close just on 2 carries alone. But it also feels like the kind of game, because of that, they're going to go early and often to the rest of these guys out of the backfield and give them more opportunity. So I think I would go under 102.5 for Audric this week because of that. All right, so this topic comes up a lot, both on the boards and social media. And, when we've got people visiting for game weekends, they've got to know, what's the best pizza in South Bend? What do you guys think?
Comes down to 2. And I think there's a style preference for each. I say it's either Barnaby's or Bruno's. Used to be a Barnaby's guy, but I am, and again, Barnaby's is more of small pieces, kind of thinner. Bruno's is bigger pieces and more doughy. Yeah.
Yep.
So I think it's between those two and, what you're feeling that night. But if I was, on a stranded island and I only had one choice for the rest of my life.
Say it. Just say it.
Bruno's.
Bam. Nicely done, sir. Completely agree. It's Bruno's for me. I like a good crust. I'm not a thin crust guy.
Yeah.
I know
and Bruno's is not like a deep dish. So
exactly.
They have a deep dish option, but it's not a deep, just for
good ratio. Good ratio.
But I like the crust part. I am a big fan of the crust.
Nice crust.
It's even
it's
better
a little
when you
thicker than New York style, but it's
not
like
and it's even better when you got a little garlic sauce to dip it, a little garlic butter, to dip it into.
Soon.
This has nothing to do with the taste of the pizza, but I hate party style cutting. I don't like the squares. I like to hold my crust. Whenever there's party style, I'm always on the crust. I never go with the inside square pieces. I don't like it.
I eat those last, Vince.
Yes, 100%.
I like the crust as well. I agree. Until it's like, okay, I've had enough crust, I've got enough salt and all that kind of stuff. It's like, I'll just have a little meat with my thin, slice there in the middle. But I agree. I think I lean toward Bruno's as well. It's been a long time since I've had a Bruno's. Might have to do that here
now. And the it's not a problem. I'm going to say the problem is, but it's not a problem. There's a Bruno's like 2 blocks from my house.
Nice.
And so
They do. I like just getting a slice. You don't even have to get the full pizza.
That's true.
The slice.
But family of 7 over here. We're always getting the extra large.
I've never understood like the love for Rocco's myself. I've never been a Rocco's person.
It's the ambiance is great. I do like the ambiance in there, but it also, if you are a fan of personal space, that's not really the place to go.
That's true.
I mean,
on top of each other.
I mean,
those are your people, Vince.
I know it's true. That's why I do like the ambiance, but I don't like being on top of other people. And it's very similar to me. And I know these are two completely different things, but like the linebacker on a busy night, like I can't stand that. Oof. It's too crowded. I can't do it. It's not me. And so
see the panic attack already.
I don't like it at all. I don't. I like my space, man. I like my space. I have a bubble.
I don't disagree. Like the wall-to-wall crowd, that's not a thing. I'd prefer like, a couple people shooting some pool, watching some football games.
100%.
Yeah,
all day long. Yeah.
Speaking of, I think I'm going to. I found a Notre Dame bar here in Cleveland. I think I'm going to go to for the game this weekend.
Oh, that's a shocker.
Multiple, I would think.
Jesse's got a bar in every city that he goes to. So,
are you going to have your shirt open like that at the bar with the little chest hair popping out?
And as the drinks go down and the points go up, more buttons will come undone.
You should see photos, man. It's like you see him in these pictures. It's like, do you know how to button your shirt?
The first thing I noticed when we got on. I knew I was going to bring it up at some point. It feels like we're winding down. I had to get it in. And I noticed the gold chain too. So you're really
there's 2 of them. Don't be fooled.
There's 2 of them.
You look like you'd be hanging out at Rocco's right now.
Oh my goodness. This is great. This is fantastic.
All right, game prediction. Jesse, start us up.
I have, I'm going to follow suit to some trends I've seen. 45 against Navy, 45 against NC State, and then I believe what's the last number? 56 against Tennessee State. Sign me up for about 48 on offense. Navy scored 3, Tennessee State scored 3, NC State was like 24.
Yep.
NC State, while their offense wasn't great, Central Michigan is not going to come close to that. I think they're pretty similar in what they're going to do in terms of output to Navy and Tennessee State. But instead of 3, give me 6, 48-6.
Interesting. Is that a missed PAT or is that 2 field goals?
2 field goals.
Okay. All right. Just checking. I think there might be a garbage touchdown in there someplace at the end because I do think Bert Emanuel is a pretty darn good athlete. And if
he's going to play the whole game.
If the second team loses contain one time, he could go. Like he could go to the house. Like he's that good of a runner, right? I mean, I do think he's a very good runner. I don't think he's a great quarterback, but I think he's a good runner. And so I've got the Chips scoring 10. All right. So maybe a field goal in like normal time and then like a garbage touchdown later. And I've got Notre Dame putting up 49. So 49-10.
I contemplated the 6 and 10 for a really long time, Vince. I want to sneak in one more thing.
Of course you do.
Jeremiah Love, anytime touchdown. Book it. Audric Estime is minus 700. That is insane.
Wow.
Means you have to bet $700 just to win 100 if he scores. That is never worth it. Give me some Jeremiah Love.
To score. He's going to score. That's the dumbest bet on the planet. He's going to score.
Well, that's how Marvin Harrison Jr. was in week 1, and he didn't score. His odds were minus 700, and he didn't sneak in. So I'm forever not going to touch those for that reason.
No.
Yeah, I don't blame you. Okay, so remember last week, everyone at Irish Breakdown picked NC State to score 17 points.
They did.
And really probably should have ended up being 17
I
points.
mean,
Not for,
agreed.
Like in the real world, it was 17, but it ended up 24. But
felt good about it.
It is what it is. We all felt pretty good about it. Jesse picked 48 points. Vince, did you just pick 49?
I did.
I've got Notre Dame 49, and I have Central Michigan 6.
Oh, so it's like a combo of the 2 of us.
Yes. Yes.
I like it.
I match Notre Dame's points with Vince, only 1 off from Jesse, and I match Central Michigan's points with Jesse. So it's going to be a long day for Central Michigan.
It is. And,
again, the biggest question is going to be how much the reserves, I think,
right.
are able to get
and when. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. When they go in and how they play and all of that fun stuff. Because, look, at the end of the day, Central Michigan, according to my Lindy's preseason magazine, is the 101st best team in college football, and they are the 6th best MAC team. So they're not great. Okay, no. They're not great.
Michigan State started very slow and ended up winning that game 31-7.
Yeah.
I think that Notre Dame's not going to start slow, and the trend of Central Michigan not scoring a lot against a better defense is also going to be a trend.
And a team with a head coach like Notre Dame, I'm comparing them to Michigan State. Notre Dame is better. So
yes,
markedly better.
Markedly. All right, well, that's going to do it. We'll wrap it up with that. Notre Dame, Central Michigan, Saturday afternoon, 2:30. Don't forget it is on Peacock. And, of course, you can, if you want to listen on the radio, you can always stream it on the Odyssey app, AUDACY. We get asked that all the time where people can find the radio broadcast. The Odyssey app is where you can find it. So
tune in. It's worth it.
Yep, do that. And, of course, the post-game show coming up after the game. The Irish breakdown, and then upon further review, I assume it's going to be Sunday night. We typically don't find out to the weekend.
Film.
That's
as long
right.
As we can find film.
Yeah, that's right. And then we'll be back, of course, on Monday as well. Have a great weekend. Enjoy the game, and we will talk to you then. I be Countdown to Kickoff.